For so many people, the word sales makes them feel really uncomfortable. There's something about it. It's almost that it should be a 4-letter word. And certainly a lot of people think that it's like a dirty little word. It's often associated with being pushy, with what's called intrusion marketing. And the movies don't really help much with that kind of, show me your watches and that pushy sort of used car salesman. But the difference is that for those who are salespeople selling someone else's product, of course, a small business owner, an entrepreneur is selling their own product, something that they have built, something that they have created, having identified a problem and wanting to create a solution. And if we don't get it in front of more people, and not just get it in front of more people, but actually offer it to people, then we can't help them have that transformation and give them that solution and help move them from that pain island to that paradise island. And that's why I wanted to invite today a very special guest, Debbie Hoffman, who is a former Wall Street managing director. She has sold over, I think, $25 billion in sales. And Debbie's going to be sharing with us today authentic follow-up that leads to more yeses, and also about that really crucial follow-up process, which something like 82% of people don't do. So Debbie, welcome. So excited to have you here.
Thank you. It's so good to be here. And it's actually 92% of people never follow up.
Actually, it's so funny because I thought to myself, I'm sure it's more than that. So I got the 2 right. So
well, no, it's sort of right. 92, only 8% make the 5th contact where most of the business starts happening. So that's the statistic.
Yeah, and I actually have some of those statistics to share later. So for those of you who don't know me, hey guys, or rather are new to this group, welcome. I'm Tanya Target Camacho. I'm a former investigative news journalist. I'm an award-winning news reporter turned video media and speaking strategist, which is why you're going to get a whole ton of stats and some really great content. But most importantly, also a very powerful story with some very powerful takeaways for you. And Debbie, your story is very interesting indeed. You have a really fascinating backstory in that you worked for Wall Street for 20 years and then you found yourself one day an entrepreneur, but you were, even with all those skills, you were struggling to grow your business. In fact, you were forced to file for bankruptcy and even lost your home through foreclosure. Could you share with us that time in your life?
So I was working on Wall Street, like I said, for 20 years, super successful, high 6-figure income. It was great. And I decided it was time to be mom. I wanted to be home with my family. So I quit. And my friends thought I was crazy to leave this high 6-figure income. And I thought everything was going to be fine. But my husband was a high-end custom home builder in the San Francisco Bay Area. And when the real estate market crashed, it devastated us. So here I was starting this health and wellness business and networking as an entrepreneur. And I was desperate to get clients, because if not, we weren't going to be able to pay our bills, and I would have to go back to a job again, which would have killed my spirit for sure, and happiness. So I was showing up at these networking events, and people who I knew, I would walk over to, and they'd see me coming and they would turn the other way. Like it was bad. And I didn't know what the heck was going on. And what I realized is that the ways on Wall Street of coming across aggressive and pushy and relentless worked really well there, and that's why I was so successful, but it did not work well in the entrepreneurial world. And so I just kept trying to figure it out, and all of a sudden one day I had this aha moment that I needed to show up in service to people and let go of my agenda and my attachment to trying to get people to become my client. And when I started coming from that place and seeing how I could help people, how I could support them, everything turned around for me. And I reached out to a coach and invested money I didn't have, even though it was really hard for us. I borrowed money from 3 friends because we had no credit cards. We had nothing. We had 0. And that investment totally turned my whole business around, along with having this insight. And so I researched, I read books on heart-centered sales, on authentic sales, and I put away all the books and things that I was seeing about being salesy and aggressive. And I just kept learning and growing and watching videos and working with coaches, and it turned everything around for me. People started becoming more attracted to me. I became more magnetic. People weren't turning the other way and running away from me anymore. And my business started to grow. And within 14 months of a brand new coaching practice, I went from 0 to 6 figures in 14 months. And it was all
That's
because I tapped into my follow-up system, and I came from a place, coming from the heart, coming more from that feminine and not coming from that pushy, salesy place.
so. If you look back at some of the things that you were doing, like, can you share any of them with us? Like, does some of them just kind of make you cringe, thinking, "Oh my gosh,
Well,
Debbie, I can't believe that you did that"?
yeah, it's pretty embarrassing. So I didn't ask people if they were interested in hearing, learning more about what I offered. I just assumed that they did. So when I saw them, I would just start talking more about my stuff, right? And it was very repulsive to them. And it's just a very basic question, like, are you even interested in hearing about this? But I never asked, right? And so I just kept coming across in that hard pressured way. And again, it worked on Wall Street, but it doesn't work when you're dealing with people, individuals, in an entrepreneurial world. So it was really about, I was way too attached to my agenda, and I wasn't making it about them. I was
So,
talking too much, way too much.
right. So what was the shift? So you said that you were talking too much, so you had to start listening. Did you find that the sales process now took longer, requiring more follow-up, a deeper building of relationships? What did you find was that kind of big aha moment?
Well, with some people, so when you're looking to build relationships and get referrals, it can take longer. But I also had the opposite happen, that because I was coming from the heart and showing up in service and seeing how I could support them, what I could do for them, what resource I could provide, who I could connect them with. When you connect somebody with someone else and it turns out to be a great connection, they will forever be grateful and do whatever they can to help you and support you in return. So it takes longer sometimes to build those relationships, but you end up getting more clients, more referrals, more JV or power partners or referral partners than if you go looking for clients. So that was the big shift. I wasn't going looking for clients and to sell. I was going looking to build those relationships with those people I could collaborate with. And that was a game changer.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I'm just looking at Karen Howe. Hey, Karen, how are you? And Karen said, she can certainly relate to some of the struggles that you went through, and really amazing results that when she did let go. So, it's so powerful. And where do you find, Debbie, that a lot of people go wrong when it comes to the sales process?
Well, I've already mentioned it a little bit, that they're too attached to the outcome. And they're following up with people because they want to try to get that person to become their client. And people can feel that. People can feel your desperate energy. Energy is very subtle, but it's very powerful. And I didn't realize that when I was, after the foreclosure and the bankruptcy, I figured I'm going to put a smile on my face and just show up. And I was so wrong because I had that desperate energy. So that's where people go wrong, is they are attached to their agenda. They're trying to sell, and people get pushed away by it. They back off. Like, can you imagine back in the day when we were networking in person and somebody comes up to you and they stuff their business card in your face and they proceed to hose you down with all this information about them? Like, it's all about you, and people don't like that. But when you're asking questions and getting curious and asking people about them and finding out different ways that you can support them, like I said, they're going to fall in love with you. The guard, everyone's got this wall around their heart, like their heart will just open. They'll be so grateful that you're really interested in them, because most people are not, because they're being talked at, they're not being listened to, right? So that's when the connection and the trust gets developed. So in answer to your question, sometimes it can actually be faster when you come from that place, because people right away fall in love with you. I've had people at networking events where I've connected somebody to somebody else that I just met, and the woman was so grateful. She came up to me, she gave me a book that she had written as a gift, and she remembered me, right? Because all I did was come from a place of how I could help her. Now she's like wanting to do everything she can to support me in return. That's just the way it works.
I think too, tell us about the mindset shift, because, I think that while all of those, obviously, what you just mentioned, are really important too, there's also the confidence, right? To at some point, there's a sales conversation. And I think that and correct me if you think I'm wrong here, I'm happy to have a Shark Tank moment. But I think for some people, sometimes they're really good at that nurturing, and they do come from a place of service, but they struggle to pivot to have that sales conversation. Do you agree with that? And if that is your experience, how do you help people move beyond that?
Great question. So heart-centered entrepreneurs, a lot of them have a really difficult time making the invitation to work with them. I don't call it closing the sale. That's a real masculine, old school term. I call it inviting people to work with you. And people do really struggle with that. But there has to be a question before that invitation, which is to find out if they're interested in getting support with that problem that they have. So it just depends on the scenario. If somebody, like I do discovery sessions with people who reach out, who are interested in learning more about what I do and how I can support them. And so I have a whole process, which I teach my clients, of questions to ask that leads to, would you like to hear how I could support you? Would you like to hear, how I can help you with those issues? And if they say yes, then you share what you offer. But then again, I never go into the investment until I ask for permission. But people do really struggle with the invitation. And the way I talk to my clients about this is that if you don't invite them to, they're waiting for you to invite them to work with you. And if you don't, I really feel we're doing them a disservice, because they could still be struggling with that issue that you can solve. And so because I'm coming from a heart-centered, more feminine place, the way I teach my clients to make that invitation, it's like a natural extension of the conversation, and it feels really good, feels really authentic, and people don't feel salesy or pushy. It's all about asking for permission, Tanya.
Yeah, and I love that you mentioned that, and I'm going to come back to that point. I mean, one of the things that I do when I'm selling from stage is I'm always, as a transition statement, where I'm seeking permission. I call it a permission statement. Otherwise, the audience can feel very violated. I've certainly sat in an audience where someone just went in for the sale and like, whoa, what just happened here? Yeah. But I've been on these strategy courses. I'm so pleased you brought this up, because I think this is a very powerful tool for entrepreneurs and small business owners to use in their business to fill online programs, to fill high ticket programs, masterminds, and to fill one-on-one. Yet so many people say to me, oh, they're a waste of time. So I'm going to get you to sort of I know, right? I'm going to give you get you to walk us through the overview. But I just want to speak to what you just mentioned. And that is that when you say to people, you ask for permission, would it be okay if I showed you what it might, what solutions that I might have? People will actually go, yeah, that would be fantastic. Like, they're actually pleased and relieved and eager that you've offered them. And it's like, oh, yes, please. Like, finally, someone's going to help me. And I think that if the conversation isn't naturally, go in that direction, you don't ask for that permission, and you've got this kind of internal chatter saying, oh, I'm not sure if I should, they could feel rejected. They could feel not good enough, or some kind of, what's wrong with me? Why didn't Debbie or why didn't Tanya ask me to work with her? Is there something wrong with me? Do you agree with that, Debbie?
I've never thought of it quite that way, but I could see that could happen, that somebody would wonder, like, I've never experienced that because I always make the invitation, but they might be left more like, well, what now? Like, what do I do now? I just poured out my heart. I have these problems. It seems like she has a solution, but she's not inviting
I'll be left
me.
hanging. Yeah.
I'm left hanging. So I think that's a big issue. And the power of having, can I share real briefly a story about what just happened with a client of mine around the discovery session?
Stories. Yeah, we love stories.
Oh my gosh. So I'm working with a super smart business coach. She helps women transition from corporate to starting their own business. And she was just kind of winging it with her discovery sessions. She didn't have a process in place. She just, whatever came to her, she asked, and her conversion, she wasn't getting a lot of people to say yes. So her conversion rate was really, really low. So we worked on some very powerful questions and a whole, like, just step-by-step process that felt really comfortable to her. And the next week, she had 2 discovery sessions. Both of them said yes to working with her and brought it, in $7,000 in income. So immediately implemented what we talked about. So that's the power of having a process in place that you know what you're going to ask, when you're going to ask it, and then to lead right into asking for permission to share how you could support them. So it's really a beautiful process. It just, to me, you're like guiding people through this process, and you're assisting them because they are waiting. People are waiting for the invitation. So if we don't make that invitation, we're doing them a disservice. We don't want people to keep struggling with that thing that we can support them with. So I really feel we have an obligation not only to follow up with people, but we have a moral obligation to make that invitation only if we feel that they're the right fit, only if they're our ideal client, and only if we know that we could support them. If not, we're out of integrity, and then we need to refer them over to someone who could help them.
So let's just have a look at that. We're talking about the art of follow-up, and I just, some of you guys might know some of these statistics, but every time I see them, they always amaze me. So we have just 2% of sales made on that very first point of contact. And I'm just going to run through some of the stats really quickly. 3% on the second. We have 5% on the third. 10% on the fourth point of contact. And in fact, 90% of sales are made on the 5th to the 12th contact. But drum roll, 44% of people, these were the stats that I found, Debbie. Right. 44% of people give up after just that first attempt. And yes, here's that 92% figure you were talking about. 92% of people give up after no sales on the fourth call. Right. And this is where you can stand out if you are one of the 8% of people who follow up more than 5 times. So, 3% of the market is actually actively buying, 56% are not ready, and 40% are just kind of getting ready. But most people just focus on that yes right now, not the no not now, or it's going to be soon. So what's the best way to follow up? Could you tell us Debbie's secret sauce, your secret recipe?
Oh, well, that's I could talk for days on this, but key thing is, first of all, you have to have a system in place. And when I say system, I mean 2 different things. One is the technology. So there's a software called a customer relationship management system that helps you keep track of everyone. And then there's needing to know what to do and what to say at every step of the process. So that's where I come in. So I help my clients get set up with the right CRM that's best for them, because everybody's needs are different. And then we work on what to do and what to say. So I feel the best way to follow up, especially now when people are so isolated, is to pick up the old-fashioned phone and call people. And most people don't. The go-to first approach for most people I talk to is that they email.
And I'm going to share some stats on that. But what I wanted to do, Debbie, is Debbie has a free gift for everybody today, guys. She has 3 key scripts. So I was going to save that till later, but because you mentioned saying the right things at the same time, I just wanted to drop that in right now. So you do have full permission to go and get that, guys, but please keep this interview streaming at the same time, but go and get that for you. Now, I got some stats on this because I'm an outgoing introvert, right? So I actually would be guilty if I let myself of just using emails. But 91.5% of outreach emails are ignored. And in fact, picking up the phone outperforms emailing by a huge margin, 8.2.1. You can see it, guys.
I know what you're trying to say.
Thank you. And this is interesting too. There are some interesting stats on text, but not as your first point of contact. If you use text as a first point of contact on someone who you think might be a good client or lead, it's almost 100% guaranteed they will never become a client. I didn't know that. That was a new statistic I found. But if you send it to them once you've had contact, they have a 40% more chance of working with you than someone who didn't receive one. And then there's this thing called multi-channel selling. I actually don't like that word myself either. Multi-channel promoting points of contact, which is phone, text, social media. Is that part of your recipe, Debbie?
So my recipe is phone, text, and then it could be social media or email. So I'm finding people respond. If they're on Facebook and if they're active, they'll respond through Messenger. But I'm finding a very high return rate on texting after I've left a message, and people will respond very quickly. So that's the way they're going to respond the quickest. Once in a blue moon, they'll respond to the email, but I give them different ways. I reach out in different ways to find out, to make it easy for them to choose whatever way works for them. It could be late at night, and if you just leave a message, they're not going to be able to call you back. But if you text, email, or social media reach out, they're going to be able to respond, and then you'll know what's their preferred method of communication, so you can keep going. One thing I did want to mention about that gift, that as part of these 3 key scripts that I share that are for really challenging situations that most people never know, they don't know what to say and they don't follow up. I'm also offering I host networking events twice a month, and you can come as my guest to the next 6 networking events for free. And I know I'm attracting heart-centered entrepreneurs from all over the world, and people are loving it. They're getting clients, they're getting partners, they're getting speaking gigs, podcasts, interviews, just a lot of great stuff is coming. So I want to make sure everybody knew that this is a really valuable gift.
Oh, it sure is. So is there a special link and a discount coupon for that? Because I can put that into the link for the video as well for them afterwards. I can drop it in now.
When they go to this link, it will tell them exactly what to do. You sign up for the 3 scripts, a congratulations window will pop up, and it will give you the code to put in to come to the networking events for free. So
awesome. That is so generous. Thank you.
Oh, you're so welcome.
Very, very, very generous. And it's crazy to me when you look at the number of touch points where the sale can actually happen.
Yes.
That journey actually starts, and the number of people that actually don't go through. How long can this and I know this is a piece of string question, but it can actually happen quite quickly, can't it? I mean, I found that myself. It can be a matter of days from when you first meet someone. If they have the pain and you've presented the right solution and everything's lining up correctly, it can be days. But what's your experience? What do you tell people
in terms of how long it takes to get a yes?
Yeah,
it's totally varies. So I really don't. I don't really tell people how long it's going to take, but what I do share is that you don't want to give up because people always ask me, how long should I keep following up? And I say, until you get a yes or a no. And there's a question, I call it the guilt message at a certain point when you feel like, okay, I need to know if this person's interested or not, to leave a message that actually gets them to respond. And so it's different for everyone. It's different for every entrepreneur, but also if somebody is really struggling and you found them at the right moment, they could make a decision that day. Like I met a woman a couple years ago at a networking event, and she was running a team with a network marketing company, and she just said, I need you, I want to hire you. And we got on a couple days later, and she signed up to work with me one-on-one for 6 months. So sometimes it can be super quick. If you find the person at the right time, it can be super quick. I was actually on a call with someone that I met at an event, and we were getting together to learn more about each other's businesses to see if we could partner up. And she said, and she leaned in. That's what I mean about not trying to sell and trying to get people to become a client. I had no intention of that. I was there to see if we could support each other. And she leaned in and said, Debbie, I want to work with you. And she signed up like on the spot. So it varies all the time.
Yeah. I just wanted to give people hope out there who are thinking, like, how long is this process going to take? I find, Debbie, that what you're talking about can close sales so much faster than digital marketing. I'm just going to say it. Absolutely.
It's about the relationship.
Yeah.
And what I say to people, Tanya, is like when you first meet someone, the relationship is just getting started. The follow-up is how you nurture that relationship step by step. And so when you have a system in place that helps you to stay in touch with people more consistently, the relationship will deepen, that know, like, and trust factor will be created, and they're going to, again, either become a client or become a partner that you can collaborate with. So for people that think, oh, I don't want to follow up because I don't want to be pushy and salesy, it's the exact opposite. When you follow up with people, it shows them that you really care about them, that you're not trying to sell them, that you're really passionate about what you do and you really believe in what you offer, and you come across so much more professional. And so the follow-up is key. And the other thing too that a lot of people don't think about, there's a saying out there that how you do anything is how you do everything. So if you're not following up with people, or you're not doing what you said you were going to do, people are going to look and go, wow, if I become a client of this person, what kind of service am I going to get? Right? But if you're doing amazing follow-up and you're showing up in service, they're going to think the absolute opposite. Like, wow, I'm not even a client yet, and look at the kind of service and support I'm receiving from her. I can only imagine how awesome this is going to be when I hire her. So people are watching everything that we do or don't do.
And little things too. I was talking to a former client of mine, and she works in the leadership space. And she sent me a message a few days ago, and she said, "Oh, how did that interview go?" And I wrote her back and I said, "You are so impressive the way you walk your talk. Do you set a reminder about these things, or have you got a ninja memory?" But just those little things, like, when you meet someone in a networking group, I'll often write "loved her leopard print pants" on the card, or I'll make a note so that when I reach out, you're already starting to have that personal memory and relationship. And to this day, I met her 3 years ago, and we still connect over those leopard print pants. I mean, they were phenomenal, Debbie. What can I say?
That's great.
Lana asked the question. She said, define follow-up: an email, a call, a private message, or one-on-one conversations. I might just get you to do that, Debbie, to actually define the term follow-up for those of you who are not familiar with that lingo.
Okay. So follow-up is any contact, and all those contacts that you mentioned, Lana, those are all follow-up. Any way that you're reaching out, a phone call, an email, a text, a private message, sending a video, just any way that you're reaching out to somebody after you've met them is considered follow-up. But like you said, I share those statistics all the time, Tanya, that you shared earlier. And one of the statistics too is that when you go networking, you go to an event, 48% of the people that you meet there, you'll never hear from. Like, you'll never hear from 48% of them.
So what's a great way to stand out?
Calling, like I said, calling
Yeah,
people.
exactly.
Every single time I call someone, they thank me for following up. So Lana, did that answer your question? It's any kind of reach out, but you need to be consistent with it. And when you have the CRM in place, it will, you can set the reminders so that people don't slip through the cracks, because it's really hard to keep everything in your head. You have to have a way to keep track of that last time that you connected, and to remind yourself for the next one. So those are all follow-up attempts.
And Karen Howe also, Lana said, yes, thank you. And Karen said, what about an audio on Facebook, particularly dealing internationally?
Oh, you mean leaving an audio, a message?
Voice recording.
Yeah, I think that's great, because I really think, so if you're calling, if it's international, and you don't have, you don't want international rates, doing that is really a great idea, because you want people to hear your passion and your excitement and your energy and feel your heart. So leaving a message through Facebook is a great way to go. Yeah, you want to have people hear your voice as much as possible. And ideally, when you are following up with someone, and you make an appointment for the next step, is to always do it on Zoom when you can, because again, the connection is so much deeper. It's almost as good as being in person, not as good, but right now that's all we've got. And so it makes a huge difference to be able to see people and feel their energy and have them feel your heart. Like, it makes a big difference.
And you can read their body language too. Like, I've been on Zoom calls sometimes, and we'll be having a discovery call, and I'll notice something, and I'll say, what's going on right now? Right. But you can't, if it's not over video, that's really hard to do. And I think too, just touching on the audio messages on Facebook, where I think that's powerful is because people know that's actually you. Quite often when you do a direct message, it could be a member of your team, and we're all onto that, but no one can fake your voice. So when you call and say, hey, Debbie, I was thinking of you, or I just want to see how you are, they know that it's you. Now, just back to the
one quick thing. So I've been following up with people this week because I'm starting my 7-week Power Up Your Sales program next Tuesday. And so there were a bunch of people who are on these master classes that I did, and I did a free coaching call last week. And I called all these people, and some of them said they needed to, look at the site, they needed to finish listening to the masterclass, whatever they needed to do. And I said, great. when would you have a chance to do that so we can reconnect? And they told me, and I said, would it be okay? Would meeting on Zoom work for you? I always ask for permission because I don't want to assume anything. They all said yes, and all of the calls I had the last few days were on Zoom, and it made all the difference in the world. And people signed up for the program after connecting, and they all thanked me so much for the personal reach out, because most coaches don't do that. They do a masterclass, whoever signs up, and the rest of the people, will never hear from them, right? And I actually called them and had a conversation with them and took the time, and then got on Zoom and took more time. And it meant so much to them. It really did.
And I just shared your program details for anyone there who is interested. I just wanted to share that with you because I know that enrollments are open at the moment. So go and just have a look. Just go check out Debbie's program. And you were talking about that. And what's interesting, Debbie, is I haven't done that. What I've done previously is, if someone hasn't bought, I send the "it's not you, it's me" email, and I have this kind of tongue-in-cheek email. But it would be so much more powerful to go and make those phone calls if you're capturing those phone numbers, of course, at the time of sign up. But I want to ask you, when it comes to the strategy call, do you have a filtering process to pre-qualify people?
Oh, totally.
And how does that work? Can you share a little insight into that?
Sure. So I'm very big on pre-qualification because I find so many people are wasting time chasing the wrong people. Like, I recently had a woman, she just kept calling me and reaching out and setting appointments, and she never asked me if I was interested. And I just said, I'm more than happy to refer people to you, but I'm not interested in what you offer for myself. And so, I invited her into the program because I said, this is what I teach people. So the process for pre-qualifying is really important. So before anyone signs up for a discovery session with me, I have an application for them to fill out so I can learn about them and find out. I just ask various different questions to learn more about them, and then also to find out if they are seriously looking for a coach to support them, and I have them share about the commitment to, the availability for resources, right? And then I also have another tool that I use, which is an amazing quiz where I have them rate themselves on 4 different areas of follow-up. So preparation, limiting beliefs, systems, and referrals, which are like the 4 biggest areas I see people struggle with the most. And then at the bottom, there's a way they can score themselves in terms of their commitment to putting in the time, the commitment to learning these skills, and the commitment to invest resources. So I know in advance if people are serious or not. And sometimes I do, recommend that we meet at a different, later on when they're more, when they have access to resources, because I don't want to waste their time or mine. So yes, I have a couple of different steps that people take before. I don't get on a discovery session until those 2 things are filled out. And it's made a huge difference. And my conversion rate is probably 7 or 8 out of 10 people that I speak to say yes to working with me. So it's very high because of that process.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question, was what percentage should people be aiming for with the conversion rate? So for how many calls on these strategy calls should they be aiming for that they would like to? We're not going to use the term close. What are we going to use the term, Debbie? Work with you.
Work with you, or bring on new clients.
Bring on new clients.
Yeah.
What would be a good figure to aim for to begin with?
Well, I think if you can get to 6, 7, that'd be awesome. 8 obviously is
out
great.
Of 10, out of 8,
out of 10. Yeah. So, because if you're pre-qualifying, then they're further along in the process, and these are people who are not looking to get free coaching, which those calls should not be free coaching. And that's a big mistake a lot of entrepreneurs make, is they give, and they make it into a coaching call. It's not a coaching call. It's really a call to find out where people want to go, if things were to go really well with whatever your specialty is, and where they are now, and what challenges are getting in the way of them creating that dream business or that dream life. And then if there's a good fit for you to be able to share what you offer and invite them to work with you. So there's a process.
There is a
That works.
process, and I was like, shall I ask Debbie this? How many questions do you have in your survey, Debbie? I'm interested to know in your pre-qualification survey.
Oh, in the application, I
Yeah,
have, I don't know, maybe 10 to 12.
yeah.
They're very short. They're very
Because it's you
short.
want to have just enough questions, but not so many that that they don't come through.
Yeah, they all fill it out. And the thing too that's really helpful is not only does it pre-qualify them, but it also saves you a lot of time when you're on the call, because a lot of those questions I used to ask during the discovery session, and now they are answering those questions in advance. So I can go deeper with them and spend more time just really connecting. So it makes a huge difference.
Yeah. So some people, with the situation is the way that it is, particularly in America right now, they might be doing some online networking, or they might not be doing any networking at all. But they have, and I know in Australia, I think it's more open, but depending on where you are, there are some limitations. So I'm wondering, it really is about like it's if you already have people on your list, it's so much easier to go back and reconnect to those people. But it can be daunting sometimes, because it's like, oh, well, they haven't heard from me for a while. And I'm sure you have scripts for that sort of thing, and that's part of your training and your secret sauce. But what would you say to people who want to bring some sales in, haven't had the opportunity to network because of what's going on in the world? How long is too long for them to go and revisit? And could you give any tips on how they might be able to break the ice?
When you say to revisit, is this somebody that they've met in the past and haven't followed up with?
Well, it might be someone they met in the past that they followed up with, but then they didn't keep that follow-up going.
Okay, got it. So one of the scripts in the 3 key scripts addresses that.
Oh, let me get
So
that.
yeah. So when it's been a long time since you've spoken to somebody, most people will think, oh, I can't call them now. It's been too long. I'm just going to throw out their card. And my response to that is never throw out a card. That's like putting a dagger in my heart. Never, ever throw out a card. There's always something you can say. And just be real, be authentic. Just say, hey, I just came across your card. I was just thinking about you today. I know it's been a long time, but I'd love to reconnect and find out what's going on in your world, and see if and how we might be able to support each other. Right. So there's always something that you can say. Even if you don't remember who they are, like sometimes people find business cards, and I'd love you who are listening here to put in the chat if you've come across cards and you go, who is this person? Where did I meet them? And you're about to throw out the card. So again, you can still call them and just say, we met at a networking event last year. Like, it can be general, and I just came across your card. So you don't have to make anything up. You want to be in integrity and be authentic. But if there's an elephant in the room, bring it up. Like, I know it's been a really long time since we last connected, but I was thinking about you today. And whenever I've called somebody who I haven't spoken to in a really long time, again, they're so appreciative. They're so grateful that I've reached out to them. It really makes them feel good that I thought about them. So it's never too late.
I love that. Karen said she's guilty of that. And also, it's nice to get to know you on a deeper level, which is awesome. And that it is really great content. And then I think Anthony put in there that 80% of deals are closed on the 12th follow. It's really quite so true. And it's really quite incredible. I mean, I got it when I was going to networking events, and I would always call anyone whose card I took. And I was selective about it because I wanted to make sure I had the bandwidth to follow up with them. Every single person whose card I took, I called, and I didn't actually pull the statistic for this for the banners that I had, but it's something like, when a strange number is calling, 90% of people let it go through to voicemail.
Right.
So that's where also, that just because you called them the day after the networking event doesn't mean that they're going to realize that you've called them.
Exactly.
Because most people let it go through. And when I do call them, they're always so surprised. Oh my goodness, I can't believe you called me. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I can't believe you thought I'd just take your card and never connect with you again.
That's what most people do. Like I said, 48% of the people you meet, you'll never hear from because they're not going to call you. And Anthony, the statistics that I've seen say that it takes, minimum of 5 contacts. That's where the average person will say yes to doing business with you. So I'm not sure about the 80%, not 8th contact or whatever. I don't want people to think, oh my God, I've got to call 8 times. It might be, minimum of 5. but it can be 8 to 12 contacts. So you just need to be, to just check in intuitively and ask, is this someone that I want to be in touch with? Like energetically, you have to feel some connection. Like you said, Tanya, you cannot follow up with everyone. You've got to be really selective whose card or whose information you get. Because now with online networking, it's so easy to meet people and you're meeting a lot of people, but you need to be really selective on who you're following up with. You cannot follow up with everybody.
Absolutely.
And for those of you who are listening, if you're not networking, please come join my networking event. That gift, you can come 6 times for free, and people are loving it. It's been we're building such a beautiful community.
I say, let me know who's going to be taking Debbie up on her offer, and I'll go with you guys, and we can have a video speaking publicity contingent go and Aussie and show strong. Debbie, you've been so gracious with your time, and I know that you are in the middle of a launch, so I don't want to hold you too much, but I do just want to speak to something else that I do know that you have in that freebie, which is why I put it up on screen again, that you also have a script on what to say to people when they were interested in working with you, but then they suddenly went
MIA. I know, they go MIA. And that's what trips people up. Most people say if they do a discovery session and the person is not a yes, they slip through the cracks. They just don't know what to do next. They don't know what to say next. So that's a really, really great script. So there's some really good scripts in there.
Can you give us like just something? Can you tease us? Just give us something, Debbie.
From that script?
Yeah, from that script.
Yeah. So it's always about reminding people, like if you take really good notes, which is what I teach my clients, to refer to those notes and re-presence for them what they said their issue was and how you could support them. So you got to go over and get it. So go
and get the wording. Don't leave these
great.
Things to chance, guys. Okay. Like I'm not just saying that. I sincerely mean it. I don't jump on a discovery call without having my outline, my questions, my segues right there in front of me. And, everyone, you can always do better, as well. But I think if you can get that script, you can get that in front of you. Don't go freestyling. Don't go jumping out of a plane.
And actually, we're going to be covering that in the Power Up Your Sales program, how to have a powerful enrollment conversation, powerful discovery session. Yeah, it's going to be, the program starts Tuesday. Can I share a teeny bit about it?
Please do. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Please do.
So I've been teaching this stuff for years, and I've taken a lot of great content from my 6-month mastery program, which is, $6,000 program, and my one-on-one coaching. And I created a 7-week program, and we're going to be meeting every week, 7 weeks, 90-minute coaching calls every week. And you're going to learn how to follow up after meeting people, how to set up your system, how to pre-qualify, how to do those coffee dates that actually don't turn into being a waste of time, where you actually have a follow-up process after that, those meetings, so that you can continue to deepen the relationship. I have a whole module on referrals, a referral strategy, how to ask for referrals, when to ask, how to train people what to say on your behalf, and how to give you the referral. We're going to be talking about the power of collaboration and when you're going to, networking, that's who you're looking for. So there's just a lot of great stuff in there. So it's very, very packed with incredible content, and you'll be having an accountability partner to role play and practice and check in with. And there's a ton of great bonuses that are on the landing page. So I'm not going to go into all that, but there's an inner game piece where you have a 30-minute private session with a dear friend of mine to help with limiting beliefs and fears and all that. So it's a very powerful program, and I love you'll get more yeses.
I love it. I'm so excited to be, and I'm very selective about whose programs I do promote, as you guys who've been with me for a while do know. And I love how you talked about referrals, because my husband Anthony, who's I think watching this, he also works in sales, and he's a sales performance coach, and he's always talking about referrals. And so many people don't ask for referrals.
They don't.
Yeah. So look, Debbie, thank you so much for joining us. How else can people connect with you? Like, is it email the best, Instagram, Facebook? I mean, you've got this awesome free gift for everybody. So I'm going to drop that in again in case you missed it. And you can also check out Debbie's program. But how else can they connect with you?
So Facebook Messenger is great. You can also email me at debbie@powerupyourfollowup.com. So any questions you have, if you want to find out more about the program and see if it's a good fit for you, please reach out, because we're getting started Tuesday. We can have a conversation. We'll hop on Zoom and have a conversation to see if it's the right fit for you, because it's not for everyone and everyone's in a different place in their business. But if you're not getting enough clients and you're not getting enough yeses, then and you don't have a system and processes in place, then we should definitely talk.
Karen says she's signing up now. I don't know if that's for the freebie or the gift or for both, Karen, but that sounds fantastic. And that's the thing too, is that entrepreneurs who take the quick action are the entrepreneurs that succeed in their business and in life. So great work, Karen. Debbie, thank you so much for joining us.
You're so welcome. Thank you so much for having me. It was super fun. And I love to be connecting with you on the other side of the world. And come to the networking events. It'll be so much fun to have all of you, the Australian contingency.
Yeah. Well, I live in America, so I've got like 2 homes now, but I'm going to, I live in Southern California now. Yeah.
Oh, I think I knew that.
My Australian girlfriends all tease me because they say that I sound American.
No, you do not sound American.
But look, thank you so much. And I'd love to have you back another time too. It's been
Thank you so much. It's been super fun. Thank you so much for having me.
Total pleasure. And thanks guys for watching. If you've got any more comments for Debbie, please leave them in the chat box and we'll, get those answers solved. Also, please do go and check out Debbie's free gift. Also check out, of course, Debbie's program. Have a look. And if it's a good fit, well, just have a conversation with her. She's going to let you know honestly, authentically, if it's the right timing and a good fit for you. So if you need support in that area, you have absolutely nothing to lose. Have an amazing day wherever you are in the world and take care, guys.
Bye for now.